welcome to the episode of Subconscious Realms. I'm your host, General Lee. For tonight, we shall undoubtedly embark on a journey of utter fascination as we go back on our remarkable returning guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dave Patella. Alan, Dave.
Hey, thanks, General. I appreciate you having me back.
It's been, how long's it been now, mate? About a month.
Yeah, I think it's been about a month.
Yeah. So, looking forward to speaking to you again.
Oh, me too. We got a different type of topic today, which we're both excited about.
Yeah. Mate, I don't know where to begin with it. Because it's just all, if only. But you've had some interactions, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, I've had probably 20 plus, I would say. I could probably think of 20. Either relating to craft in the sky, both during the day and the nighttime. I've seen depictions of extraterrestrials, not I shouldn't say not bodily, but not traditionally in a physical form. But I know what some of them look like. I've visually seen some of them, and we can get into that too. And then there's a lot of them that are just like, you go into an area and you know something is there because just how you feel, it's just a little bit off.
And how old was you when you first started happening, Dave?
Well, let me think about that. I want to say the first extraterrestrial craft that I saw, and given like when I was younger, I might have seen something, but I probably wasn't really like looking for that, And when you're a kid too, and everything's magical when you're a kid, So it's like you don't think twice about it, Even with all the, I think kids astral travel a lot more commonly too, because it's just part of their spiritual world. No one has told them that it's their dream life and their astral life is any different than their waking life. So it's all normal to them. And then when you look back and like when you become an adult, people say, what happened to you? And you're like, well, I was fine with it. That wasn't a big deal until you called it out and tried to make it into a big deal. But it's interesting because I want to say it was 2008.
Yeah.
And 2008, it's an interesting year because that was also the year that a lot of my friends and the people that I work with also kind of started their big spiritual awakening. And that was kind of the lead up, I think, to 2012, which was kind of the opening, the real spiritual opening that I do believe did happen for sure. We're living in a completely different world now. So I want to say it was 2008. I'd say between 2008 and 2009, I had a series of things happen. The first one, actually, General, it's actually a ghost story.
Yeah.
My first high level spiritual creepy experience was actually a ghost. And I was working at a hotel in the state of Texas in the United States. And it was a very well-known haunted hotel. Everyone knew that there were things going on there, and people have seen things and heard things. And I talked to one of the guys, and he said that every time he went through the staircase, he actually said a prayer because there was an entity that hung out in one of the staircases. So, me being at the time, I was at 2, 5, 13. Let's see, I was about 20, 22, something like that. At the time. So, I said, okay, this is probably not real. You guys are being ridiculous. And so I did, the stupidest thing that I could do is I provoked the situation, which I do not recommend anyone doing that. If you're going to go into a spiritual situation, go in it with respect, and don't demand anything. And usually what I do is I say, if something is going to be given to me, I'm open to the experience, But
did things go wrong for you at the start, Dave?
With this experience you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what happened is actually I went there was a part of the hotel that was under construction. I wasn't supposed to be up in that section, but I had some free time and I said, what whatever. I just want to see if this is real. And I was kind of bored and I was kind of restless at the time, and slightly rebellious. And I'm like, all right, let's just see what happens. So I went up there, and it actually looks like the floor layout actually of The Shining. I'm sure you've seen that movie.
Oh
And
yes, classic in The Shining. I love it.
oh yeah, so it's at like the square kind of setup, the configuration, where like you go down one hallway, then you turn like immediately left at a right
Very,
angle, and you go down.
yeah.
Yeah, and all the numbers in the doors were like uneven. The floor was uneven, and there's all kinds of paintings and stuff hanging up everywhere. And so what ended up happening was, the story is that there's I believe it was a senator of the state of Texas, which is a government position. He was visiting this hotel in the 1930s, I think the 1930s, and his daughter was with him, and she actually fell down the grand staircase and was killed. Very, very sad story. And that's the same staircase that's right in the entrance to the hotel right there. So someone painted a memorial for her, which was a really nice thing. And I totally appreciate that, and I agree with that approach. And they hung it up in the hotel, and it might have moved around, through the years. I'm not really sure, but anyway, they hung it up there, and I wanted to go find it, because the story that was told to me was that if you're looking at the picture, she'll actually start to frown. Like, you'll see the smile turn into a frown, or the smirk turn into a frown as you're looking.
That would be very strange to see.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was stupid, and especially of the spiritual world, and I thought this was all fake. So what did I have to lose? So I got up there, and it was already creepy to begin with, because there was plastic on the ground because they were painting. And so as I'm walking on the plastic, it is it's like plastic protect the carpet, from the paint on the walls and stuff. And so as I'm walking, the plastic is actually coming up behind me, and it's like dead quiet up there, so I could hear, like, it sounds like someone's following me, basically, because the plastic, like a delayed reaction as I'm walking. Yep. So then I went up. There's probably 200 pictures hanging up across that. It's actually one floor. It's actually one level, and that's probably 50 feet up in there, maybe more than that. Yeah, probably 50 feet up in the air. It's one of the upper levels. And so I finally found it. I finally found this painting. It was a very specific painting. It was a girl holding a bouquet of flowers. I believe that's what it was. And that was the girl that lost her life on the staircase. And so I found it, and I looked at it, and I felt very, very uneasy very fast. It was a very strange thing, because, I was not expecting that. I didn't think it could even happen. But I felt like kind of a terror. It was very bad. Go ahead.
Do you think that that photo it was holding, do you think that was the spirit, or whatever it was around you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you what happened next, because this is just the lead up right here. So I'm looking at it. I feel like it's really bad anxiety. It was also almost like a paralyzing anxiety, and I actually don't think I ever really felt that before. It felt really kind of, in some ways, kind of evil. It felt actually very, very dark. So I'm looking at it, and I felt really bad. And then I actually felt something. It moved through my body. I was facing the wall. It actually moved through the right side of my body, like through the torso. It came out the left side of my body on the side. And I felt it go through my body, General. I mean, there was no mistaking. There was like a weird energy that went straight through my body. And then when it came out the left side, I felt it come out, and I looked to my left, and there was a shadow that was actually crawling on the baseboard of the floor. I saw a black shadow. I actually did see that visually. And that was in concert with, what happened previous to that. And then I looked down the hall, and there's these sconces, the old fashioned lights, like a Phantom of the Opera style that they have in that opera house there that are mounted on the wall, like really old-fashioned looking lights, really beautiful lights. But anyway, I looked down there and they all flashed. They flashed one after the other. So it was like in succession, like one flashed, it went out, the next one flashed, went out, the next one flashed, went out. There were probably like 8 of them. And it went all the way down, probably like 100 feet to the end of the corridor.
Oh.
And so I could not really calm down for probably at least 2 hours. I mean, I had an elevated heart rate for probably like 2 hours straight, and I didn't even think that was possible. So I left as fast as I could. I went back downstairs because I was working there at the time. After that, I actually did not want to be in my apartment by myself because I felt like it was still with me. You know, there was some connection that it's basically saying to me, hey, okay, if you're going to provoke me, then I'm going to show you what this is all about. It may not have been the girl though, General. It may have been some kind of an entity because I don't feel like she would have done that. In fact, one of the reasons that she might have died was because there was an entity that was provoking her when she was a kid. I think there was something else there. It wasn't like a. I might not have been a human, to be honest with you. It might have been something a lot worse, a lot more darker than that. So I went back to my apartment, and then for probably 2 or 3 months, I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep, and I didn't understand. You know, my whole understanding of the world completely shifted. And I said, okay, now I have to somehow accommodate for what just happened, and I don't understand what even happened. I don't understand what that was about.
Do you think it was as in like a dark entity or something along those lines, Dave?
Yeah, I think it was probably some kind of demon. That's kind of what it felt like to me. It did not feel ET. The ET has a very different feeling to me. The ET usually to me it has a very weird feeling, but not like usually not a threatening feeling, but just like weird.
What do you mean by, if you don't mind me asking, what do you mean by weird?
Well, it's just like you just feel like it's almost like a magnetism with the ET presence. It feels like the air around you has been like magnetized differently, and it feels like it's swirling almost, and it makes your body really off balance. And I've not really experienced that with the demonic stuff. The demonic stuff, it really just invokes fear, and it's immediately. It's a very different thing for me. So anyway, I went back to my apartment and I actually said like a formal prayer because I said, please, like after 2 months, I apologized. I said, man, I'm really sorry. I should not have done that. You know, I wish you all of the grace in the spirit world, and I really hope that you find what you're looking for. And I apologize, you know. And after I said that prayer, it actually left me, you know. And that's why the big thing for me is going with respect. And a lot of these spirits, man, a lot of the spirits and a lot of the demonic entities and things, they may be lost and confused, just like a lot of us are, you know, down here on the earth. So some of them, they may be kind of reacting because maybe they're scared, you know, or maybe they're confused, or maybe they don't know where they are. And so I believe for those of us who can, we should try to help them as well. Not everyone can see them and experience them, but for those of us who can, I always wish the best for all the spirit world. And if you do things to hurt other people or manipulate other people, that will be taken care of with cosmic law. I don't even have to do that. It's going to be taken care of. So I let the universe deal with that, you know. But I ultimately want every spirit and all the things that are visible and invisible to be able to work in harmony. You know, we're all going to be different, but we can all treat each other with respect. That's my baseline belief.
At least we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said, Dave. Well said, mate. That is spot on, that. But I'm intrigued at these interactions. Do you think anything would have been to cause it? I was thinking it was
The this,
already there.
yeah, it was. It basically lived in the hotel, and I was aware of that because, like I said, one of the guys I worked with, he told me he said a prayer every time he went through one of the side stairwells, and I thought it was weird until I
Yeah,
experienced what I experienced. If you've experienced something malevolent, believe me, you know it. You absolutely know it. There's no question. Like cold as ice, no love. Um, so in any case, that was kind of the first thing. That was 2008, and then
yeah,
shortly after that, I had. I mean, if that wasn't extreme enough, but the thing about that is that that was not ET. That was a different kind of thing. That was I think a dark entity, or
yeah,
demonic entity. And again, I wish it all grace, and if I can help it, and it's going to be respectful of me, then I'm happy. I'm happy to do that. I jump right in general. I'm trying to bridge all of the races and all of the different species so we can all work together.
yeah.
But if
Fair
yeah,
play, mate.
here's the deal though, is that if you're not going to be respectful of me, then you're not going to be coming into my life. And I'm actually going to tell
Yeah,
you to stay away from me, and I'm very direct about that. So if you're confused, some of them are actually really scared. A lot of them are really timid. Some of them are aware that they look scary, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're have malevolent intent. I think some of the spirits that end up looking kind of weird and frightening um, has to do with a lack of energy in their body. Is that they can't make their mind create the body that they want. They don't have enough mental power or kind of prana running through their body.
yeah,
So I don't have a problem with if there's something that appears that looks weird or frightening, as long as you don't have malevolent intent. And I know that because you can feel that, you know,
yeah.
uh, the
Yeah, you can
energy
feel that
signature.
in some humans. You can feel that energy as well, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
The ill intent in some people is frightening, Dave.
Oh, the alien stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it can be. Yeah,
All right, so
it's
I'll go into that next if you're ready to take it that
oh,
direction.
mate, it's it's it started off fascinating, and it's starting to ramp up. It's fascinating, mate.
All right, so that was 2008, and then 2009. I did not get a break. It was back to back pretty much. I think it was all within about a year. Yeah, it was all within about a year, if I'm not mistaken. So like mid 2008 to mid 2009, or even fall 2009. That's when all of this happened. All of the kind of I usually refer to it as kind of the initiation. It's like the universe is saying, "Okay, Dave, you don't believe? Okay, we'll show you. We'll show you what's out there, and then you're going to
Yeah,
understand that there's some other things going on." Um, so anyway, the second thing that happened, I'm trying to remember if that was two. Yeah, that must have been two. Okay, so I shared this story on my friend Karen Holton's show. She's also my co-host on one of the podcasts I do called
oh,
Aliens and
nice,
Astrology.
mate. What's the show called, Dave?
Well, it's called Aliens and Astrology. I think the
Aliens,
show actually that I might have shared on her show because she has her own show. It's called the Quantum Guides Show.
Quantum Guides. And what's
And
the host name? Karen.
Karen Holton, Holton. She does great work. Go check out her stuff for sure.
Shout out to Karen.
hmm
And that is quantum.
Quantum Guides Show. It's all Karen has her own YouTube channel. It's the best way to find all of her shows.
Oh, Dave.
And me and Karen, of course, do a lot of work together. And so she's had a lot of ET experiences herself. Actually, a huge amount of ET experiences. Um, she's actually been on craft before and been interacting with different life forms, and talks about how the craft is sentient, and it's all
What,
kinds of just unbelievable
like,
accounts.
do you mean like different alien species?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They all appear differently, and a lot of them are very tall. Different
Is it,
skin, different features.
and are they like, are they called like different races?
Yeah, I think that's what I would call it. I'm not sure how she would
Right.
characterize. So in any case, Karen's got some great stories too. But 2000, yeah, okay. Anyway, so I shared this story on Karen's show about my experience in New Mexico. This is again the United States, New Mexico. It's in the Southwest, borders Arizona and Texas. So I went to New Mexico. I was in the Four Corners region, which is well known for strange energy. I'll put it that way. And I was at an area actually called Shiprock. Now, if people are not aware of Shiprock, New Mexico, just please do a quick Google search so you can see what it looks like. It's a very imposing, essentially eroded volcanic cylinder. It is used to be at the bottom of the ocean, and now it's 6,000 feet above sea level. And so there's obviously been some massive geological changes in that part of the United States to make that happen. But it used to be at the bottom of the ocean, and you could see where the lava flowed across the road, and it makes this long tail, probably like a mile-long tail coming off of the main feature. And it looks like a spine. Actually, it looks like a spine coming off of it. So anyway, I was out there, and I just wanted to see what was going on. This is one of my first road trips that I went on. Of course, I've been to all 50 states and most of Canada as well. And I completed that by 2013, I believe. I'd already been.
How long did it take you to do all that, Dave?
It took me I had a little bit of a break. I mean, in total, I would say 2008. In total, it took me 5 years.
5 years to basically travel all across America.
Exactly. And most of that I actually did within 2 years. And then it was Alaska and Hawaii that, you have to go out of your way to make that happen. So
yeah.
later on. But
Jeez,
anyway, yeah. So I have the firsthand experience to share with people. And, being a scientist, it's absolutely vital to have firsthand experience. I can listen to a story and I can say, oh, that sounds ridiculous, or yeah, I believe that. But you know what? Yeah. If someone says, hey, Dave, there's this like weird site and it has like strange energy, well, then I say, okay, I'll go there because I'm going to actually feel the energy. I want to see what's going on. It's different reading a book or hearing an account from someone else, completely different than you going in with a blank slate. It's actually the best way to do it is to go in with completely blank slate. And just have someone, say, go check out the site. Just go check out the site. Tell me what you think. And sometimes I'll come back.
Just don't say anything about it. Is that the best way to do it, mate? Don't say a word about it.
That is the best way to do it. Just tell the person that it exists and say, I'd recommend going out there. And then, I mean, quite a few times I come back to the person. I'm like, man, you knew that was going to mess me up, and I said, okay, you got me. But then I come away enriched with more information, better understanding,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like an ambassador for the spirit world, and that includes all kinds of spirits. I can interact and communicate with most of them. Now, whether I want to or not, that's a different story. It depends on what their motive is. And I want to know that they have everyone's best interest in mind, including their own best interest.
Yeah.
And if they do, then it's a green light for me. Even if you look hideous or you're scary looking, I don't care, because maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they don't want to look like that. How many people have asked that question, General? You have a demon, you say, are you doing okay, mate? Like, what's going on with you? If I can help you, let me know. And you know what? Some of these demons, I bet you no one's ever asked them that. So since they constantly get ignored and like they feel like people are scared of them, that it just reinforces that, and then they keep projecting that when they're interacting.
Do you think all demons speak English?
Oh, definitely not. I think there's all kinds of varieties.
Yeah.
Latin is a big one, of course. Latin is very similar to the word Satan, which is Satan essentially. So when I hear and I'm not putting any language down, but I'm just saying when I hear Latin, I don't really feel great. I don't like how it sounds. It sounds creepy. It sounds sounds very serpentine to me, actually. Very strange.
It sounds creepy.
It feels reptilian. I'm just going to say that. It feels like a reptilian language to me. Not my first choice, not my first choice. So anyway,
As soon as we finish, mate, I'm actually writing it down. I'm going to try and listen to it on YouTube.
let's say it again. That what?
Cool, mate. I'm going to try and listen to it on YouTube after.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the Catholic Church does Latin masses still,
Yeah.
in some areas and stuff. So in any case, I'm gonna move on to the ET stories so we can get into what happened here. So
Yes, mate, please.
My first experience was either a ghost and or a demon. This was not extraterrestrial. There's no way. Did not feel like that. So then the next thing that happens, I'm at Shiprock, New Mexico, and this is on the Navajo reservation for people that are not aware of that. And oftentimes on Native American reservations, there's a lot of close contact with ET presence. A lot of them are very used to it, and they call them their, star brothers and sisters. It's not a big deal. Some of them say that they communicate with them regularly, even. So, I think some of the world, they don't make a huge deal out of it. I've even talked to people that said, you know what, we try to respect each other's space, and as long as you don't come messing with me, I'm not going to come messing with you. So respect my tribe, and you guys will be okay. We're not going to bother you. They actually they told me that in relation actually to the Skinwalker story. They said
Skinwalker story.
Well, they said that they're out there, and they say, but they generally won't come bother us, and we just let them pass through and be on their way. They're usually not after the specific tribe or something like that. But that's a weird topic too. That's a very strange topic. So anyway,
Skinwalkers.
Yeah, of course, the Skinwalker Ranch television show. I don't know if you've probably seen that. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, so I have.
Very interesting show that takes place in Utah, which is not Utah borders New Mexico to the north. Well, to the northwest actually, but okay. So anyway, I'm at Shiprock, New Mexico. It's on the Navajo reservation. This is 2009, I believe, beginning of 2009, maybe April. And I'm driving through the area. The rock is very striking. It's a very striking rock formation. It's very impressive. It sticks up out of, there's nothing remotely that high anywhere around it. So it's not flat, but it's very, very stark monument sort of on the landscape. So anyway, I'm driving through there and I'm saying, wow, that's pretty creepy looking. I didn't really, again, I didn't really like it. I'm not, just the feeling I got, but that wasn't even what was about to happen. So then I'm looking around, I'm looking up at the sky, and there's a few clouds coming in, and I'm looking up at the cloud and I'm saying, I see a face in that cloud, and this is believe me,
Face in the cloud.
this is right, and this is not pareidolia. I'm talking about. That's how I describe it. I'm talking about, it's like an artist took like a stylus, dipped it in ink, and drew the exact figure. This is not, it kind of looks like this. This is like an imprint.
Yeah.
It looked like almost like a photograph. It was unbelievably detailed. So
was
the
it
face,
like cartoon like?
not this one. No, it was pretty realistic. It wasn't cartoonish at all.
No, what I mean by cartoon like, I mean like almost too real.
Oh, it was it was like someone, it was like it was real, except not in flesh, just it had a different, basically, I'll put it that way. So when I say head, I'm talking about a massive head. I'm not talking about a human size head. I'm talking about I don't know how I would describe how big this was. Maybe 50, 60 feet tall. No, maybe up to 100 feet tall. Probably 100-foot tall head in the clouds. And it was an Indian chief, and he had a skull cap on. He had a buffalo skull cap on, unmistakable. I could see the top of the skull on his head, and I saw the horns of the buffalo, I'm assuming, coming out of the side of that. And he was observing me as I was driving. And I looked down, or I looked to the side, and when I looked back up, his eyes had moved. the eyes had actually moved direction. So he was looking to the side, and then when I looked back, he was looking directly at my car as I was driving.
Mate, that's fucked up. That. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's totally, and especially back then when I was not prepared for that. It did fuck me up. I'm gonna be honest with you, because it's not something that you can really be ever prepared for that.
Oh.
It was not a gentle initiation, General. It was like I went right into the flames.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
intense,
so
that, mate.
yeah, and he didn't look really that inviting. Just because you've got a skull cap on, it doesn't mean you're like malevolent or malicious or anything like that. It doesn't have to mean that. So in this particular instance, it didn't feel. It felt foreboding. I'll put it that way. Did not feel great, and his expressions were not particularly happy. That's not to say that it can't go the other way. Again, this was my experience at this particular moment. So that's the first thing that happened. Okay, it's going to get a lot weirder. I mean, that was just the beginning. So I noticed that some of the other clouds, they look kind of weird, but I couldn't figure out what I was looking at. So what I did was I just took some pictures, and I guess through my windshield as I was driving carefully, took a few pictures, and I said, okay, I'll look at this later, and I'll see if I see something else, because I had a feeling I wasn't seeing everything that was there. There was definitely something else kind of behind the scenes. So what I did, this is back in 2009. This is back when the cameras, this was not a camera phone. This was a digital camera, and it had limited memory space. I had to take out the little chip there. So I pulled off to the side of the road to upload that chip or the pictures I had taken onto my computer. I mean, I could only take like 25 pictures. It's unbelievable how far we've come since even the early 2000s here. So I pulled over to the side of the road to clean my camera off so I could start taking more pictures. And I get out of my car, and I hear the wind gets kicked up, and it's not really wind. I'm listening to it, and I'm like, no, there's actually a voice. There's a voice in this wind. And it was one of the strangest things, man. It's very hard to explain, again, very hard to try to explain what that was. But it sounded Arabic to me. It was very specific, very specific. It sounded like the Arabic dialect. It was kind of serpentine. Again, it was kind of reptilian language. It felt weird.
Sorry, mate. Sorry to interrupt. Did you just say Arabic?
Yeah, Arabic. It sounded Arabic for sure. And
sorry, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just standing there, and I'm saying, what do I make of this? I had already been completely knocked off my feet, from that first experience, and it was not letting up. It wasn't going to let me take a break here. So anyway, so I basically I left the area. There was also unfortunately there was a dog that had died on the side of the road as well. So all kinds of weird bad energy in this area, as I'm driving. So I'm like, I've had enough of this. I don't know what this is, but I'm not doing this anymore. It's not a good thing. I don't like it. So that night, I actually drove into Colorado, the state of Colorado in the United States, which is, this is the Four Corners region. So Colorado is directly north of New Mexico, very, very close to the border. I mean, it was probably half an hour drive, maybe 45 minutes. So I drove into Colorado, and that night I actually pulled over, at the end of the night, and I was looking at my pictures that I had taken. And the pictures were very strange. And what I did is I zoomed in on them. I had the magnifying button I was pressing to get closer in on it. And there were actually figures in the clouds. There were, I'd say, humanoid bodies, and they were absolutely alien bodies. This is what I was referring to at the beginning of the show, that I said I know what they look like, some of them, because I've seen them. And I literally, well, the weird thing about it is I couldn't see them with my eye. I don't know if that's because they were too small in the clouds, but my camera found it. My camera saw it. And not only did my camera see it, but again, it was like an artist took a stylus or a pencil and actually drew the exact figure. It's not a rough outline. We're talking about like a very, very specific, exact something that was trying to be appear or come forward through the clouds. So I'm looking at this. And their bodies are different heights. Some of them are, moderate. None of them were, actually, I shouldn't say that. I think they were all heights. Some of them were very short. Some of them were kind of mid-height. Some of them were very tall. I would say most of them were fairly slender in body. And their heads were of two styles. One of them was very, very tall, elongated. And I'm not talking, you know about the Paracas skulls, obviously, I'm assuming in Peru.
The Broca skulls, are they the strange shaped ones?
Yeah, they're the elongated skulls in Peru.
Yeah.
And they're elongated, but they're not, they're fairly long, but the ones that I saw in the clouds were way longer than that.
Really?
People
like,
think people
proper fucking like dome, like a dome.
Like, say it again.
Like a dome, like
A dome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, okay. Well, there were two styles. One of them was the head went straight up, directly to the north of its body. Not, so a lot of the elongated skulls, they kind of come out the back, and they're long, kind of out the back of the skull. This one was like the cone head, that people are aware of. This that show, the television show or whatever it was.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, that's what it looked like, except it was actually even a little bit bigger than that. The head was the same size, the same length as its body. So like you could fit it was the same height, just the head, as the entire body was. It was like half of the height of its body was the head.
That's a big ass head, that, isn't it?
Right. So that was the first one, and then the other one was actually more like the ET style, which is like the football shape, but not a small football. Again, it was a fairly long football, kind of like a hammerhead shark, but not thin like that. But it was like a football, but like very wide. So I'm looking up there, and I'm looking in my camera because I couldn't see them when I was looking actually without the aid of the camera when I was actually there. And they were also at all different directions. Some of them were standing upright. Some of them were on their sides. Some of them were even upside down. So they were in all configurations, all different kinds of them. They all looked slightly different. And it was everywhere. There were probably like, I don't even know, man. It was probably 60, 70 of them in this frame that I took. All different. Oh, yeah, they were all up there. So what's interesting?
Sorry, Dave. And they're all different. Every single one of them is different in one way or another.
Yeah, they were all slightly different. I would say the two main types were the ones with the very tall heads and then the very wide heads. And some of them were short, some of them were tall in terms of their body. Yeah. They all had, the feature they all had was the elongated head. That's, what I didn't see, like for instance, I did not see reptilian. I did not see like mantis style. I did not see any of that. It was actually just essentially all elongated head style. So anyway, at the end of that day, I had never had a day that intense in my life, and I didn't know what to think. Completely sober. I had no idea what was going on, and I just had to kind of let it sit with me. So I got a little break, and then I got back on the road, and I headed actually out to Roswell. Now, Roswell is at the other side of the state. It's at the southeast corner of New Mexico. People are aware of this story. I'm not going to tell the Roswell story. It's a very well-known story. And what ended up happening was I was coming into town, and the actual what was supposed to be the Roswell crash actually happened slightly outside of Roswell, to the northwest or to the west, and in an area called Corona, New Mexico.
Corona.
Which is yeah, it's a hot phrase these days.
Yeah, Corona, New Mexico.
So, but it's on like private land, so you would have to get on a dirt road and stuff. I think you have to have permission. But anyway, I didn't know this at the time. I actually did not know it was off to the side of the road. So I'm coming in on the road into Roswell. It's nighttime. I saw probably a total of 3 cars over like 50 miles that I was driving. Like 3 cars in 1 hour. Very few people out there. It was completely black sky. I had probably never seen that many stars in my entire life. Very beautiful that night. And so I'm coming into town.
Midnight, mate.
What's that? You said midnight?
I bet that would look mint.
Oh yeah, it was that.
When you see so many stars like that. It's
yeah, because it also
it's
reminds you that you've been living in light pollution your whole life, because you should be able to always see like that. And you feel really healthy when you're out there. I mean, it just feels fantastic. So in any case, yeah, very natural. Like the air is very clean. It's just excellent. So anyway, I'm coming into town and I'm looking up in the sky, and there's what I assumed was a star, very large star. I would say abnormally large, and it was in kind of the right hand side of my windshield facing forwards there. And I'm looking at it, and it actually starts to kind of flash. So I'm saying, wait a minute, that's not a star. Like there's something. It's either a craft or like a plane or some kind of I don't know what it was. So I'm looking at it, and it starts to flash, and then it starts to rock side to side. So the horizontal axis starts to tip like a seesaw, the seesaws on the playground for kids. One side goes up, the other side goes up, the one side goes up, keeps going like that. I'm like, all right, this is weird. And having said that, this was like a week after probably less than that. This was like 3 days after what I had just gone through. And all of these three things that happened are all within a year, easily. So I got no break. It was no break. It was saying loud and clear, there's another world out here, and there's things that you should understand. That was the universe's message to me. So I'm looking at it. It's kind of wobbling on its side there, and it's like kind of blinking. And then it actually, I should say this before I say that. I started to get a really bad earache in my right ear. I started to get this pressure, and it was actually fairly painful. It was not like a pleasant. Yeah, in my right ear, which was the ear that was facing whatever was in the sky. That was the ear that was closest to what I was looking at. So I'm looking up there, and I'm like, wow, this is weird. It felt like some kind of energy coming from this, whatever it was. And then the next thing that happened was that it darted to the other side of the sky, which probably was at least 100 miles. I mean, I don't even know. It could have been further than that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And it stopped on a dime, which again is impossible. And if it was a human in there, that would kill the humans. There's no question. You cannot take that amount of G-force, so that would kill the entity, the biological organism.
Yeah.
So it stopped on a dime, which again is not traditional physics. So that's weird enough as it is. And it's also not a comet or like a meteor, because that doesn't happen like that. And it was the same intensity. It got really bright again, started rocking back and forth, and then it actually disappeared. Completely disappeared this time.
Do you think it was? Do you think it had like bad intentions?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't really overly malevolent.
Right.
I think it had technology that it probably was not aware that it was affecting other organisms around it. But it wasn't. I didn't feel targeted or anything like that. It really wasn't that bad like that. Not like the one in the hotel. That was more targeted. But I asked for that. That was my fault, so I got what I deserved. So in any case, next time I looked up, it had returned to the other side of the sky, but I didn't see it move back there. It just appeared again. And 100 miles in 1 second, how are you going to explain that? And then that whole night when I was in my hotel room, I had an earache for probably 6 hours. I could not get rid of this earache, and I could not wait to leave. the town
That's
the next
crazy, that,
day.
mate, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I went to the UFO museum, the next day, and I kind of enjoyed that experience of talking about the weather balloon that people were claiming it was and all this crap.
Yeah.
And then I kind of left the next day. But the point is that when you have this amount of reinforcement in succession, you are never going to be the same again. It forces you to change what you believe about the world.
Yeah, because it's just it just changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it changes how you define what reality is. It changes how you define what you thought were natural laws.
Yeah,
Like
so
physics.
it changes everything for me. I think it will be. He deserves to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's something I wish that everyone could experience at least once. Just to let people know that you guys we're not the only show in town. Humans are not
yeah,
the only show in town on this planet.
yeah. It's hey, this is remarkable. And I bet how many more stories have you got, Dave? Like what? I tell you what. Right, okay. So what was the most daunting experience you had?
You said the most daunting experience.
The what was most uncomfortable for you?
Well, I would say for the most part between those three, and then I actually did have one more experience. This was much later.
Yeah.
This was the worst. This was the worst one. This was the one I'm going to share right now. And this was in 2018. It was actually in a completely different part of the United States. It was in Massachusetts. And there was well, you know what? I'll share it because I actually want people to be aware of this, and I want people to know if they ever do visit. If any listeners want to visit this area, please be safe and be prepared
Yeah. Oh,
because
nice one,
I've
mate.
yeah I've had a lot of reinforcement. I'm not the only. In fact, I think everyone that goes to this area has reported something strange that I've talked to. I talked to at least three different people, and they all told me, yeah, actually, some of them didn't realize it at the time, but when they thought back to it, they said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. That was a weird experience when I went there.
What, what are they like? Are these like well-known areas?
Say
So
it again, Jim.
are they well-known areas so people can actually go there?
Oh yeah, this one's called Dighton Rock. It's
Tyson Rock.
in
Right, Tyson.
Massachusetts, which is of course a lot closer to you. And I actually believe that I think the continents were connected as one landmass actually fairly recently. I don't believe it was millions of years. I think it was a few thousand years, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Um, so this is probably a similar energy that you're used to over in England and maybe all the UK and Ireland. I've had people tell me some really weird stories about Scotland and like just things that they felt unsafe when they were just walking around because of the spirits and stuff. So it's a similar. This one was not ET. I'll make that clear. It was not an ET experience. The other ones that I explained, the past two were. But what happened was, so there's this stone. There's a stone that was found in kind of one of the inlets of the ocean. It's right in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
So one of the ocean, the tides come right up to this park, and they found a stone in I think the 1800s. It might have even been the 1700s, but they found a stone half buried in the channel of water right there. And it had very strange markings on it. And in the beginning, people said, "Oh yeah, it was the natives. It was the." Some people were saying it was the Phoenicians. Some people were saying it was the Vikings. All kinds
Oh,
of these kind of exotic people. And there's lots of stories, especially off the mainstream, about, of course, people coming over here much earlier than Columbus, which I fully believe and support. And I think for certain the Phoenicians knew about, the Americas, and I'm sure probably everyone else, to be quite honest. I think the Celts were over here, um, in the 800s or something, maybe a little bit before that. And the Vikings, of course, in the year 1000. And I'm sure they continued on the coast, and we just don't know about it, or we do, and people don't want to recognize it, whatever the case may be. So I wanted to know. I wanted to see the stone. I wanted to see for myself. I'm like, all right, so what is this? What are the symbols? Is it a language? What is it? So what they had done is, and this was much before I got there, but they actually took the stone and they brought it onto the land, and they put a museum around it. They actually built a museum on the outside to enclose
Museum
this.
around the stone.
Mm-hmm. Very
That's
very
brilliant,
small,
that way.
very small museum though. I mean, we're not talking big, just enough to hold it, pretty much.
That's brilliant, that.
Yeah, very interesting. But since that was the case, I couldn't see it because it wasn't open, and it had really weird hours. And I tried to get a private appointment, and they didn't return my call. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm not doing this. It's not meant to happen. So I'm standing there, and there's a couple like displays, and I'm reading the displays, trying to understand, what's this all about. And I'm standing there, and I start to feel really anxious for no reason at all. No reason at all. It was somewhat similar to the hotel experience in terms of, it may have been, I would say it was certainly demonic. There's no question about that, whatever it was. And I'll tell you what I think it was afterwards once I finish the story. But I'm looking at this description, and I'm actually facing the museum. I'm looking at the museum as I'm reading this placard, and it was telling me about the story, and it does show what the symbols look like, but it's not the same as seeing the rock, of course. But I started to feel very anxious, and I actually start to feel like there's something that's actually watching me. And how do you explain that? How do you explain that feeling? It's a really weird feeling. But
From a rock.
well, and not it wasn't the rock. It was actually behind me. So I looked. I actually turned around because I'm like, why do I feel like this right now? I'm just minding my own business. It's like, what is going on with this? So I turn around. I scan the tree line. There's no one there. There's no one there. There's like one couple people having a picnic. There's one guy sitting on a picnic bench on a cell phone, but there was no one like staring. It felt like glaring glance. I turned back. Okay, turn back. All right, there's no one there. Well, the next thing that happened is that the pressure dropped all around me on all sides of me. It felt like kind of like what it feels like when a tornado is coming through. Right before it gets there, the pressure drops and it feels really creepy. So the pressure drops. It got really strangely quiet, and then I started to feel, I would say, more like of a fear. It turned from anxiety, it turned to fear. And then I'm like, all right, something's going on. I don't like this at all. I don't know what this is, but I don't like this. So I actually turned back. I'm like, I think the day is done. I think I've had enough. And I'm turning back to go to my car. And then I feel like I've been incapacitated. My body, I had trouble actually moving. And it felt like my body turned into like a lead weight. And then
completely,
oh yeah,
like,
I barely could move.
Did you just like, was it like you just fucking collapsed, or could you just like not move? Was you just stationary?
Well, I was walking very slowly, but I was.
Right.
It was like an energy paralysis. It's like something put a force field around me, and was like, yeah, like a stun gun. It's like you can't think, you can barely move. So anyway, and I'm halfway back to my car, and then this is the worst part of the whole thing. I started to feel like rage. So it went from anxiety to fear to rage. So then I started to get angry out of nowhere for no reason at all. And I'm like, okay, I said, you know what, we're done. We're absolutely done. And with the little energy I had left, I actually tried to turn to my car to take a direct line to my car. And the minute I did that, there was something invisible jumped on my back, and I fell, and I had to put my hand down to brace myself. Otherwise, I would have hit my face in the ground. You know, it was very serious.
Yeah.
And then so there was weight. It was actually weight on my back, and I fell down. And oh yeah, so I got up and with I was again completely like dazed. I was in a daze, kind of stunned, and I could barely move. But I found a little bit of energy I had. I got back to my car, and I turned the car on immediately, and I drove out of the park. And this is what's interesting about this is that the minute that and that whole road, by the way, felt like a time warp. It felt like a weird dimensional shift that was happening. That whole road, really weird, really weird feeling. And then the
Crazy.
minute, yeah, the minute I drove over the bridge, there's water underneath the bridge. There's like a little stream or something like that. The minute I crossed to the other side of that stream, it slowly started to dissipate. So that, and this is often talked about in terms of the spirit world, is that water is often a barrier, and a lot of times the spirits cannot cross it. They have to stay within their confines, you know.
Yeah, I love that, mate. So, and then
So,
when you that kind of event, like you sound like a mirage, so to speak.
oh, absolutely.
It's what
Yeah, there's
makes it
like,
so fascinating, Dave.
yeah, it's like an inlay almost. It's like an overlay, a dimensional overlay that there's a different energy gradient that's existing in the same area that you are, but it's in a different energy wavelength, you know, or the different type of light made out of different kind of light. So that was an attack, you know. There's no question about that. And the only time that's ever happened to me was probably the worst experience of my life, just about. And some people say, "Oh, you know, you can't be attacked by a spirit." Yeah, you can. You can. If the spirit's strong enough, it can physically exert strength and weight on physical forms. And one of the ways that we know that too is that, and you can even do science experiments with this, and it's not like not really a consciousness, but I would argue you can easily carry it over into that realm, the conscious, talking about consciousness and how that affects your environment. But if you have like a concentrated energy beam, you can move things, you know, and even sound can move things, and you can't see that, you know, you can't see the sound. Um, but if I play well, I mean, like an opera singer with a wine glass, we all know what happens with that.
Yeah, they can make it smash, can't
Exactly, it can shatter for sure. So anyway, um, I went through that town right there and the town next to it, and people know there's weird stuff going on because that week there was like a psychic fair. You know, people know there's stuff. It's in the air. People are aware of it. The two other people that went to that park before me,
they?
actually, one of the people actually said that someone was. This was a person. This was not like an invisible figure. They said that there's a person actually staring at them, and they felt really uncomfortable about that. And the reason is because whatever that demonic entity is, it has the ability to possess people. It can get inside the body, get inside the mind, and
Right,
direct it to do
right.
what it wants.
So right. Let me just get my head around this, Dave. So the people were seeing normal people, and they just like shapeshift into a fucking demon.
But what I think it was, I think it, and I don't know. I mean, that's a good point. But what I think it was a normal person, a flesh and bone person, that
Yeah.
was affected by the invisible entity to such an extent that they couldn't control their own mind. But you could be completely correct. It could have shapeshifted. Absolutely, it could have done that. I don't know because I wasn't there.
Yeah, there's loads of possibilities.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Wow, mate.
It's important. It's important to keep everything on the table. I think when you're trying to explain things. I mean, I'm very hard. I do very hard science, but everything is science to me. You know, if I can replicate it or if I can explain it through some natural principles, I'll try to do that. And then the other story is that this lady brought her kid to the park one time, and the kid fell and like for no reason, out of nowhere, got a really bad head injury because he hit a rock. He or she hit a rock, and they were in the hospital for like days. So it's like everyone that goes there. There's another lady that told me, yeah, I felt weird when I was there. Now that I think about it, So whatever this is, it's a very, very ancient. This was not a new kind of energy. It was very, very powerful, and I think it was. I think it was actually invoked. I think it was invoked through black magic because the symbols to me actually kind of look like sigils. It's not really a language, and what I felt about it was that, well, some of the depictions were people that didn't have some of their arms were not on their body or their head was not on the body. So it's like, what is going on with this? This is not like language. It's some kind of dark magic. But what I think it was, Jen, I'll tell you what I think it was. I think it was one of those red-eyed wolves, the red-eyed wolves that can walk on two legs. That's just what I felt about it.
Oh, a bit like what we say is a Skinwalker Ranch, like direwolf. That's that kind.
Yeah, exactly. And believe it or not, they also have a story of that on Oak Island, which of course I've done a lot of work on Oak Island through the years. This is the same thing. It's this very tall wolf man that has red eyes that stands on two legs. And it felt, because the reason I say this, because it felt like it was kind of stalking. It felt like it was kind of on a hunt. It felt like there was an animal that was trying to hunt something.
Like a 14-foot dog man.
Oh yeah, well, at least. Well, actually, it's interesting because this what's weird about it is it actually felt like. Well, the way I remember it was that it completely was on my back, so it might have not been as big as I was envisioning it. But again, you can shape shift. You can be any size you want. You can appear as a human if you want, if you have that ability.
Yeah. I can imagine they
So,
did as well. Some of them.
Say it again, General.
I should imagine they did as well. Some of them.
Well, I'm sorry. One more time.
I should imagine they did at some point shapeshift.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't, and when you see humans, I'm not trying to be weird or anything, but I don't even know who is who anymore. I don't know if there's a real person in there. I don't know if it's a robot or an android or a reptilian. The way that I do it is that whoever you are, whatever it is, if you treat me well and you respect other people, you're going to be on my team. So that's all I care about.
Yeah, that's how it should be,
don't,
Dave. That's how it should be, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know, I can't see the full construct of the matrix down here right now. So I'm good right now. I'm good with the fact that if I see your actions and I see that you make people feel comfortable around you and that you're here to help people, then you're going to be my friend. I don't care if you could be a benevolent reptilian for all I care. I don't care. Are you part of the effort to try to help the Earth to ascend? And if you are, then we're on the same team.
Yes. That's how it should be, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're in all of this together, mate, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. So those are the big stories. I do have a couple really short stories, very, very short ones. I just wanted to include this so people can hear it.
Yeah.
When I was in Nova Scotia, Canada, which is actually quite close to England, it's the closest I'm going to get pretty much without getting on a plane. I was, of course, doing my research at Oak Island, and I stepped outside of the hotel right across from Oak Island, and there was a very bright light in the sky. Again, I thought it was a star, but the second, not the minute, the second that I saw it, it disappeared. I stepped out, it saw that I saw it, and it disappeared. Instantaneously.
Was it a star, or what was it?
Well, I think it was probably a craft.
A craft.
I don't think it didn't feel like an orb to me. Orbs feel more organic to me. It felt like a technology craft or something up there. But this one was probably even larger than the one I saw in New Mexico. It was bright white. I couldn't see like the shape of the craft. I just saw a bright white light. It looked like a kind of ball. So that happened as well. And then I have in 2020, I guess it was last year, man. It's lots happened since then. This was last summer in 2022. I was doing research in New England, specifically about the ET presence in New England. And I was actually born in Connecticut, so I'm very familiar with that part of the country. And there's a lot of interesting things going on energetically. Of course, we had also the Salem witch trials that happened in that area. I think there's a fair amount of like Wicca and sometimes black magic and dark arts and stuff. There's a lot of wizardry stuff in New England.
Yeah.
So, and not to mention, there's lots of stone chambers, these very strange stone chambers. You guys have, oh, you guys have them. You know, it's like the super version of what we have over here in the UK. But what we have is specifically in the Hudson Valley, which is what I was going to talk about for a second, which is in New York State.
Yeah.
The Hudson Valley has I believe, the highest concentration in the Americas of these strange stone chambers. Many of them are maybe, I would say, anywhere from about 3 feet tall to maybe about 6 feet tall, and it varies depending where you're at. Some of them, you know, you can't.
6 feet tall.
Yeah, and they're made of stone. They're made of very large pieces of stone. They're still standing. It does not look like a colonist did that. There's no way in hell. There's no way. This is what some people claim, General, that the colonists, when they were getting their farming going when they first came over here, and it is true. There's lots of rocks in the ground in New England. And you figure, okay, let me find a way to do something with this. But these are like flat slabs, perfectly cut, perfectly like corbelled to make ceilings and stuff. They're aligned to solstices and equinoxes. And at the back of the chamber, you can see that the light somehow interacted with shapes or carvings that are on the kind of back of the chamber there. So this is not your everyday kind of, you know, and the natives didn't do it, you know, so this is before, this is way before that. And the most, the explanation that makes the most sense to me is, and all my podcasts I always try to get people to think about this, is that if you think about things in terms of that the continents used to be connected very recently, I would say as recently as about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
I believe the continents were connected. Maybe it was a little longer than that. I don't know. But some people believe that when the LDS Church, formerly called the Mormon Church, some people in the Mormon Church believe that the continents actually split when Jesus resurrected, for people who believe that story, because of the power that event had on the earth. So if that happened, that was, you know, around the year zero, I guess. But in any case, it's like what it feels like to me is that Ireland and UK and New England and Nova Scotia and Newfoundland were all part of one like very large regional area. And in fact, it's the same mountain chain, the Appalachians. We talked about this, I think, in the other show we did. Is that the Appalachian chain actually?
Yeah, we did, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, it continues through Ireland and UK and even the western part of Sweden, Norway, I believe. Western Scandinavia, that mountain chain actually comes to a culmination there. So what's interesting about it is that it feels like a version of what you guys have in UK in terms of, we got these chambers that have alignments to the sun and to the moon and things. Some of them might have had funerary rites associated with them. And you also get this weird sense that there were little people, and I'm not being offensive with using that term. I'm just saying.
Is it like the dolmens, Dave?
Well, it's not that big. Not what you guys have. And man, I should just get my ass on a plane and get over there and start to see some of this stuff, because it would be the best day of my life, General, to be standing at Stonehenge. I'd never been to Europe. So in any case,
I've never been there, mate. I would love to go.
Oh, United States?
No, Stonehenge.
Oh, to Stonehenge. Oh, yeah. It's only a few hours from you, right?
Yeah, I've just never had a chance to go, mate.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a possible country.
Yep, for sure. So in any case, the ones that are in New England are primarily, they're fairly low in stature. They're not, I don't think I've seen one more than 6 feet tall. There was only one that I went to where I could walk in without having to duck. The rest of them are much shorter, and a lot of them are only 3 feet tall. The opening is 3 feet tall. You have to duck to get in there. But I'll tell you something interesting about one of them. This one's called the Upton Chamber. This is in Massachusetts. The Upton Chamber is maybe even less, maybe been 2.5 feet tall. I mean, this was like very hard to get into this entrance. So, and I ducked down and I still hit my head. I actually hit my back because I couldn't get down low enough to get into this chamber. But here's the thing then, is that this was during the summer. This was last summer. I think it was August or probably August. And it was hot. It was very hot. It was actually probably 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know the conversion right now to Celsius, but it's hot. It's hot and it was humid. And I get inside this chamber. It's like 55 degrees Fahrenheit in there. And it's built into a hillside. And I said, you know what? This is absolutely genius. So if for no other reason than to have temperature control, this makes sense to me. So in the summer you go in there and it's cool. And in the winter, since it's built more than half of it's built into the side of a hill, you're not going to experience the temperature extremes. So it's absolutely genius to do that in terms of just living.
Sounds it, mate.
Yeah, but then I get in there, this chamber, and the ceiling is huge. The ceiling is like 15 feet tall, probably. Maybe about 12 feet tall. And so the living area is I'm not gonna say it's really large, but it's big enough that you could have a family in there, and it had flooded because it's fairly low, so there was all kinds of logs in there, so you could walk and you didn't have to step in water. But anyway, there's all this stuff through New England, and it's in the same areas that there's lots of UFO sightings, specifically in the Hudson Valley. People have described orbs of light coming out of these chambers, coming out of and going into them, which to me infers that it may be a portal, some sort of a portal that's used. And one of the things I thought about in terms of how the Druids potentially got over to New England and the United States, because I absolutely believe they were here without any question. They may have used portals. Some of these stone circles, I think, were actually portals. And sometimes you have to have the right frequency to be able to activate them. You can have someone walk in them, nothing happens, and you have a sorcerer or wizard walk in them, and suddenly it gets powered up and you travel through a wormhole, So the same area, the Hudson Valley, which is, the Hudson River that runs north to south. What's that, Joe? Say it again, John.
Sorry, Dave. Just 1 minute, Dave. I'm just talking to Albert Lewis. 1 minute, mate. Sorry.
Okay. Can I keep going with my story?
One minute, Dave. Just 1 minute. There's just a problem with something. 1 minute, mate.
Okay. Well, while you're fixing that, I'm just gonna talk a little bit more about the chambers. These stone chambers are also all through, well, not all through, but they're through Connecticut as well. Not just New York State, they're through Connecticut. There's quite a lot of them in Massachusetts. There's quite a lot of them in Vermont and New Hampshire as well. There's actually something called America's Stonehenge, which is well worth a visit if anyone's over here to go check that out.
Sorry, apologies, Dave. There was a problem then with the internet box. Sorry.
That's okay. It's still recording, right?
Yeah, yes, it is, mate. Yeah. Apologies. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. So anyway, this is a large area across New England that have these stone chambers, alignments, very clear alignments with celestial events and things. And it wasn't the Native Americans, and when you look at them, you immediately think of UK and Ireland, immediately, except it's on a very small scale, very, very small scale, a lot less of them. And they're impressive, but it's not like shockingly impressive. Like if you go to, like the stones of Steness or like the Stonehenge or Avebury, it's not like that.
Do you think it was deliberately duplicated, Dave?
Well, I feel like it was almost like a satellite civilization that came off of some of the larger Maybe they didn't
Right.
have the same amount of resources.
Yeah.
But I cannot, for me, I can't see any other way that this would have happened other than the continents connected. I feel like it was connected, and then that's when the whole culture developed. It's like, it's like one of these things where you have a city, and then you have like the suburbs, and then you have like the country. And I feel
Yeah.
like the further out you get from the city center, you have like, smaller buildings usually, and then suddenly you have nothing. You just have farm fields. I feel like that's kind of maybe a little bit what's happening in New England. So like it was at the periphery of like the Irish stuff and the Stonehenge stuff with these huge dolmens and chambers and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, it does feel like the same culture, general culture to me. It really does. So anyway, the story I wanted to share too is that what I did with my research this past summer in 2022 was that I actually went to two areas. There's one area called, well, I'm going to two areas. Yeah, two general areas. So the first one is called Sheffield, Massachusetts. There's lots of English-derived words in New England. I think you guys have Sheffield as a town, right? If I'm not
We do,
mistaken.
yeah. It's in Yorkshire, mate.
Right. So we've got Sheffield, Massachusetts. It's in the Berkshires, western Massachusetts. And in Sheffield, Massachusetts, there was a very well-known UFO extraterrestrial craft event that happened in September, I believe September 1st, 1969. And it was actually recognized by the state of Massachusetts as a real event, a real documented ET UFO event. It was witnessed by about 250 people, I believe. And again, with terms of science, if you have one person that say, yeah, I saw a craft, okay, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, I don't know. For me, it depends on your credibility.
That's a lot, mate. That's a lot.
Yeah, so there were people in the surrounding towns. They all saw this like bright flash orb, white orb in the sky, and like craft and just strange things. So it was all documented, 1969. And so I finally had a chance to go out to that area. And I actually went there with my aunt who lives in Massachusetts. I actually went out there with her because she has an interest in these things as well. And I thought it'd be a nice trip. So we went out there. We got a hotel room for the night, and we went out to it's called the Sheffield Covered Bridge.
Sheffield
Covered
Bridge.
Right. So this event happened, and this has been on Ancient Aliens, the television show. It's a very well-known story. It's been covered. Actually, a fairly large amount of TV programs have covered this event. So again, I wanted to see what was going on. I actually did not know what to expect. I will say that the town of Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which is just to the east of that, it does have a strange energy. It feels like
Did you
this.
say, what's it called again, mate? Great Barrington.
Yes, correct. Great Barrington, Massachusetts. And it feels like a magnetic energy again. You come into the town, it kind of feels heavy and oscillating magnetism. It's weird, very weird feeling.
Is it an unpleasant feeling, Dave?
Yeah, I would say it's not pleasant. It's not malicious,
Right.
but it's
not nice.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Definitely uncomfortable. Definitely ET. Definitely ET. It's not like demonic.
Right.
So anyway, so we go out to this bridge, and I had my EMF detector, which is an essential paranormal tool that people use to detect energy gradients and energy fields, RF radiation, stuff like that, and magnetism and electric fields, all that kind of stuff. It's usually called a trimeter, if the ghost shows.
Yeah, Dave, if you don't mind me asking, for that kind of equipment, how much would it cost roughly?
Oh man,
where would you get one from? Where would you get one from?
Oh, I can tell you exactly what to get. There's actually, I'd probably choose between two different ones. One of them is the traditional, I believe it's even called the trimeter. It's a fairly wide display. I think it's got like an analog dial on it. I can send you the link, General, if you want to see that one. But it's called the trimeter, I believe, and that one's about 150 USD. And the one that I got is called a Cornet, Cornet. There's a model number. I don't know I can look. I can get that to you. But That one was, I think, 195 USD, and I am so pleased. It's such a good device. It's an very important tool to have anytime you're going into any spiritually charged area, because if you're feeling something in your body, that will generally support what you're feeling in a more like a scientific or technological way. You can actually verify that there is something scientifically I can measure that is in accord with what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a supporting piece of evidence you can have for yourself. But I went in there with
Yes,
that.
mate.
Went in there with that, turned it on, and actually there was nothing came up at all. Very, very quiet. I was very surprised. Very surprised. I for sure thought I'd feel weird, and there was not much going on in terms of energy. It was kind of benign. Some of that depends on. It could depend on the time of day. It could depend on the day of the year. It could depend on weather patterns. It could depend on the individual person. But what the story is that they drove across this. It's a covered bridge. You know, I know you guys have those over in UK. I'm sure. It's a wooden bridge, and I'm sure they've refurbished it for sure. But and you can't drive over it anymore. But this was 1969. They drive the
Oh,
car.
do you mean an actual physical bridge made of wood? Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, wooden bridge. Yep.
I
So
wouldn't like to say for sure where they are over here. I'm not. I'm not like you, mate. I have no clue. I've not seen one for years, and I won't even like to say when that was.
for the covered
Uh,
bridges.
yeah, they're just not safe, are they? Not especially with the vehicles now.
Yeah, I don't really love going over them. You know, I try not to, but I
Yeah,
mean they're rated and tested, but people have to decide what they want to do for themselves. But any case, this one has been closed since it's been closed for quite a long time, but you can walk across it. So that night that we were there, it was totally fine. I'll tell you, it was actually pretty beautiful because there were fireflies, and it was
Firefly.
they were flashing everywhere, and it was kind of beautiful. Actually, experience it wasn't bad at all, or even weird. So the next day, I went back the next day, and what I did again, because this is how you do good science. The story is that they crossed the bridge and they continued on that. I think it's called like Covered Bridge Road or something. They continued on that road for I guess a couple, maybe like at least a mile, probably about a mile. And so I actually walked the whole road, and there's cornfields on one side of the road. There's a lot of kind of swampland, not the highest energy land. Some of it's kind of sagging. I had one guy tell me that when he crossed one of the culverts, which is what you have to use when you build a road over like a stream to allow the stream to continue to the other side of the road. You put like a metal tube in there, you know. And he said, "Yeah, I felt a little strange around here." And I was standing over there. It wasn't all that weird. It wasn't all that weird. So I walked the entire length, and it was a very, very, very vague sense that yeah, something could have happened here, but I was not feeling it. I was not feeling it. And I know, you
Yeah.
know, I know that I will feel it if it's there because I have plenty of experiences where I have. So it was very interesting experience, and that one was fairly innocuous. You know, I didn't come out with a whole lot with that one, except that I felt fine. And then the last one I wanted to tell you about was it's called Pine Bush, New York.
Pine
And
Bush, New York.
yeah, and this is
Bush.
it's all in a very small area. This is all around very close to the Hudson River, which again is where all these strange things seem to be happening. Right, this Hudson River Valley. You know Whitley Strieber and of course Communion. You know about that book, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, yeah.
That was in the Hudson River Valley as well, and it's a similar stuff with these crafts. But anyway, the Pine Bush story. The Pine Bush, New York, was calls itself the UFO capital of the world. I don't know if they still do, but it's been known as that for quite a while. Starting in the 1950s, there were lots of documented cases of people seeing craft in the sky, and then it was in I would say the mid 1980s that it really started to kind of get out of hand. And I even think there were, I mean, probably thousands of people that saw craft over that town and over that area. And some of them,
A lot of
most
that, isn't it?
oh, it's amazing. And a lot of them were described as being triangular in shape and the size of a
Very.
football field. Size of a football field, really low in the sky, just hovering over the sky, over the land without any sound at all. Just this then kind of a black mass in a triangle shape, a couple blinking lights maybe.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Especially with the sudden change of shape of craft. Triangle, black triangle. Military are allegedly having black triangle vehicles.
Oh yeah,
Is it?
it could even be like the I think it's like the B-2 bomber, I believe. It's fairly triangular in shape.
Yeah,
But
something like that. Yeah.
I actually do think this was different because it was hovering silently in the air. And I don't really think our modern aircraft can really, maybe I'm wrong, maybe not the ones we know about, can just hover there
Yeah.
silently. It's just weird. People felt weird about it. It scared them and shocked them and all this weird stuff. So anyway, this happened like at least through the 1990s, starting in the mid 80s through the 1990s. And so, me and my aunt got in the car. We drove another hour and a half, and we were in that area, and we spent the night there. We, were sitting outside trying to see something, and
Yeah.
I want to say I may have seen. I think I saw something, but it was not. It was similar to what I saw in Roswell, but it was not strange, and I did not feel weird. I did not get an earache. It just looked like a light in the sky, and I said, okay, that might have been a craft right there. Actually, that was interesting to see that. I saw it twice actually.
I can imagine, mate.
Hmm.
How many how many different crafts have you seen over the years then, Dave? Roughly.
Well, I've seen different sizes actually, and some of the to be quite honest, I think the most shocking is when it's during the daytime because you don't expect to see that during the day. Usually, people think of it nighttime.
You've
When I
got a
was
point there, mate. You've got a point. Not many people talk about day or night. You don't hear it, do you?
Oh no, not very often, but
Mhm.
I have sightings from both, and I saw something in the sky when I was in southern New Mexico, very close to the border of Mexico, the country of Mexico, very close to that border, right off the Interstate 10 in the United States in southern New Mexico. And I saw a craft. It was shiny. I'm telling you, man, it was some of the weirdest stuff. I cannot make this stuff. I cannot make this stuff up. I cannot make this stuff up. And I'm a very honest person, and I never would, even if I had the opportunity. So during the day, I'm looking up there. It was a shiny. It looked like a blimp. I
Blimp.
had yeah, like a blimp. Looked like it was blown up with air almost. Like one of those blimps in the sky. Uh, like the Hindenburg is like a blimp, like that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
But it was the way that the metal was shining. It made me feel really weird. And again, I can't explain that, but it felt like an exotic metal. It did not feel like if you see a passenger aircraft, it didn't feel like that kind of metal. It felt like
Yeah,
some kind of weird like titanium or aluminum or some other metal that's we don't barely use, stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
So I felt weird. I felt weird about it. I did not like how I felt about it. And that was in broad daylight. And that one I could see the shape. That was one of the only ones that I've actually seen the shape in the sky. The other ones have been obscured by like a bright light, usually at nighttime.
Yeah.
There were two more. It was actually in Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma in the United States. And in Oklahoma, it was invisible. I knew they were up there because I could feel the energy field was really bad. It was a very, very destructive. I don't know if it was radioactive or some kind of gamma radiation or something. I felt really, really bad. And I felt really
What
confused actually. Got
do
out of there
you
as fast.
do you get this feeling often when you have an interaction with such a craft, like a feeling like is it like sickness or something along those lines, Dave?
Yeah, this one was more of a I felt like a malaise, like I felt like off center. I felt confusion. I felt kind of ill, slightly ill.
Yeah.
But I've also seen things where I felt nothing. So it's one of these things where, you know, you see all these people in the ET and UFO community, and everyone's trying to classify everything, and people want to put them in these neat little boxes, and I just don't believe that, because what I believe is going on is that we have a vast universe, and anything that you can think of just about can exist. So some are benevolent, some are not benevolent. You know, some are humanoid, some are not humanoid, some are not visible, some come in, you know, spirit form, some come in slightly physical forms, or, you know, halfway between physical and non-physical. I really think that the right thing to do is to take all the data that you have. I mean, I have a huge number of, obviously, you know, and there's more too. Those are the main ones, I would say. But there's so many opportunities that I've had to interact with these things. And all I have to say at the end of the day, and this is my take-home point, because I know we're getting probably close to the end of the show here, but my take-home point for everyone is that we have to decide what is admissible to us and also what is not acceptable to us. So if you're someone that likes to go out and find weird stuff, I mean, yeah, by all means, the world's your oyster. But some people who have ET experiences don't like them. They don't like what's happening to them, especially with the abduction experience. So what I say is send out a message to the universe. Let the universe know what you want and what you don't want. The universe knows that I don't want weird shit anymore. I've had enough of that. You know, I've had more than my fill of that kind of stuff. It's not something that I would introduce to my friend or to my family. It's like, no, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that.
You know, Dave, this is why I've got so much respect for you, because like you actually must be difficult to speak about, and for you to come out and say it as it is, what the interactions. Don't get me wrong, it's fascinating, but same, mate. It must have been difficult times.
Well, what I would say is at the time it was, you know, it really was. But I've been in this field for such a long time now that when it happens now, I actually know what to do with it. I know what to do with it. And if I don't like it, I actually ask it respectfully, please, you're gonna have to leave me alone right now. You know, if I'm in your space, I apologize. I'll get on my way as fast as possible, because, you know, we have to respect each other's space too, even whether it's physical or non-physical. I believe in respecting space, respecting homelands and stuff like that. You know, maybe they don't want visitors. I don't know what it is, but what I would say is that. Oh, go ahead. Good.
Oh, I think you're right about respecting. We're probably going to keep continuing, so why not have a relationship there, mate?
Exactly. And what I would say is that, you know, just send out, if you do it in prayer, whether it's prayer or meditation or just a concentrated, directed thought, however you want to look at it. The universe will respond to you. The universe responds to intention and consciousness. And, you know, the way that I try to do it, like I said, is that the stuff that maybe I don't like so much, or that was weird, or some of it was even like malevolent. It's like, okay, you know what? Whoever those spirits are, I'm here for you guys too. But don't mess with me. Okay, so I'll give you my ear. Tell me what you're trying to do. If you're confused or you need some assistance, I'm happy to help you if I can. But what I'm not going to tolerate is some kind of an attack, you know, or you try to put the energy field, interact with my energy field, and I'm not okay with that, you know. So I usually, what I do is I give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I make a statement. I say, you're going to respect my space. I know you're here. I know you know that I'm here. And if you can respect my space, then we can interact. If you're not going to respect my space, then I have a problem with that. You know, and that goes against cosmic law. So someone saying, I don't want to interact with this right now. And if you're not going to respect that, that's when you have an altercation, you know, and that's I think a lot of what's going on out there right now is there's battles between ET species and spirits that are of light and the spirits that are of dark. And there's this big battle that, in terms of what's acceptable and what's not. And for me, it's very, very simple, very, very simple, is do not interfere with the life path or the free will of any sentient being. The only possible exception is that if something's going to come to a directed harm, specifically if it's without reason, then I do take issue with that. But apart from that, it's like, I live my life. I do things the way I want to. If you want to have creepy energy and you want to show up in places and have people run scared of you.
Exactly, mate.
Okay, then go ahead and do that. But you know what? If someone's under my protection or if I'm looking out for people, then I'm going to ask you to leave. Or it's one of the two things, General. It's either you're going to leave or I'm going to leave. So if that's their territory, and especially if I'm a visitor and I didn't grow up there and I'm not familiar with the energy, I'm probably going to be leaving anyway, in which case that things will be kind of back to normal for whatever entity is localized in that area. But the other thing is that, and this is what I kind of envision for the future here, is that all of the spirits all across the universe should be able to decide who they want to surround themselves with. And that includes humans, animals, plants, any kind of invisible entity, the fairy world, the gnome world, all this stuff. Whatever it is that you should be able to say, the way I ask 2 or 3 questions of every spirit that I interact with. I ask them, first of all, I want to see what they look like. A lot of them like to hide in invisibility, obscurity.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that. I want to see what you look like. And it's not gonna scare me. I'm asking you to show me how you choose to depict yourself, because that's going to tell me something about you. I want to see that first. Second thing is I want to know what your mission in life is. What are you trying to do? And then the third one is why are you here? And if their mission, and this is why it's important to be able to distinguish with these things, because like I said, I'm an ambassador to the whole spirit world. So just because you're scary, or maybe you're misusing some technology, like when I feel like I was getting radiation in my ear, stuff like that. Maybe you're not aware that it's harming other humans and other animals down here. Maybe all you need is to understand that, and maybe you'll stop doing it. I don't know. But if you're for humanity and you're trying to do things to help others, and maybe you're in a bad place, and maybe you don't have the resources you need, and maybe you've been scared for thousands of years, and you're just looking for someone, please help me. A lot of these spirits, General, I actually think a lot of them realize, they're like, yeah, I know I'm scary, and I don't want to be that way anymore. A lot of them are trying to readjust their energy currents and their energy fields.
Yeah.
And if everyone runs scared from them, that's an absolute tragedy, man. That is a real tragedy. So I'm not that person, but you have to respect my space. And I can tell you a 3-minute story. I can end it here if you want a really good one to end it off with here.
Go on then, mate. Certainly. I'd love to.
Okay. So here's the last story for the night. This is in the state of Georgia. Again, this is the United States.
Georgia.
And it's in the mountains. There's an area that is characterized by an entity called the moon-eyed people. Moon, like the moon in the sky. Moon-eyed people.
Yeah.
And they're described as having very large eyes. And that's one of the only things that we kind of know about them. But they hang out on the top of this mountain. And this is the mythology. This is the legend. And I was aware of that. One of my friends this particular time. This was also last summer. So I'm up on the top of this mountain, walking around, and there's lots of rock walls. They're very, very strange shape. They look like snakes or serpents, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like winding walls. It looks like a kind of like an animal effigy almost, or something. So we're up there, and we kind of in the main area of the site, and I'm standing there with my friend, and I turn to her and say, "Do you feel that?" She paused. She only probably about 2-second delay. She said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, I feel that." And so I turned my EMF detector on, and it was in the RF frequency, and it was spiking into the red zone.
What's RF frequency, mate?
RF is radio frequency.
Radio frequency. Okay, thank you.
So similar to like your remote control for your television, or to like a radio station, or some cell phone signals like that. Okay, so if you're in the forest and we were in a very remote area, it should be very, very low. It should be 0.0003 or something like that.
Yeah.
And this was registering like 198. I got like one of like 300, something like that, all the way into the red zone. So, and again, I turned that on after I felt it in my body. So I already had the firsthand experience. And so we're standing there, and it was shooting up, and then it would shoot back down. And I'm like, what is going? It wasn't even consistent. So you'd think if there was something there, it would stay consistent. Well, what happened was I had the sensation that there was something. I mean, it felt like they were playing. It felt like they were jumping around me. So when it went down to green, I actually turned my body 180 degrees, and I pointed the detector at the other side of me, and it started to go into the red again. And then they moved again, and then I turned again, and then sure enough, it showed up, at like a right angle to where I was previously. And it felt like they were probably about 3 feet tall. Yeah, probably about 3 feet, 3.5 feet maximum. And I had a feeling of their energy field. They weren't as tall as me. They weren't even close to as tall as me. And one of the references that I think about with moon-eyed people is essentially large-eyed beings. It could be like a gray almost. But the thing that happened, this changed my life, General. This was a really amazing experience because it was weird. It was definitely weird. Definitely weird. There's no denying that. But they actually were trying to have fun. It's not something I'm used to, but they meant absolutely zero harm. I know that for a fact. They meant no harm at all. And it kind of made me smile because it was kind of fun. They had a very high energy. So I felt that in my energetic field, but it was not bad at all. And when I left the mountain that day, what I came away with was the fact that I just established a connection with a new species, and I have somewhat access to them now because now we know each other. We had an interaction and we know who each other are. So it's a really nice asset to have. I would say they're definitely on my team, but I think they almost felt a little bit like nature spirit as well. It may have been partly, I don't know, man. It was like half ET, half nature spirit. It was like a combination. It felt. But they're my friends. They're actually some of my new friends now, and I will always cherish that. And I'm looking out for them too, man. I think they live up on the mountains and they don't really come out a lot.
Yeah.
But I think for people who are going to be respectful of them and who value them, that's the thing is people should understand is go into it with respect and find the things that are positive qualities and compliment them. And say thank you with me. We don't have to be like scared with weird stuff. Doesn't have to be.
Yes. Yeah, I get you, mate. I get you. Before you go, Dave, would you like to let everyone know where they can get hold of you if you have any questions, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me back, John. I really enjoyed
problem,
this.
Mate. I think we've barely scratched the surface.
Oh yeah, that's always.
You've still got many tales, I bet.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's always more. I've got we can do fairies next time, maybe. That would be a good one.
Oh, that would be mint, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Little fairies, mate.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of that over in the UK and Ireland, and also there's a lot of it in New England, and that's part of the other reason why I feel that they were connected, and it was part of one larger culture. Okay, guys. So if you want to find me, people who follow me probably already know that I'm an astrologer. I do Western astrology. It's also called tropical astrology. which is birth charts primarily. I also do relationship matching, business applications, and selecting days of the year that are going to be more likely to bring you success. So I do all of that with astrology. I also do spiritual guidance. Any topic you want. I'm trying to help people get to the best version of themselves and to help you get a better understanding of the world around you. This is all about humanity. I'm always in service to other people. It's about getting us to a better place. That's my whole objective, being on this planet. And then I also do a lot with Pre-Ayurvedic Medicine, which is principles of how energy moves through the body, a lot with fasting, and health tips and things to bring you more vitality and higher consciousness. So if any of those things appeal to you guys, send me a message. I do have those services are listed on my YouTube channel about section. On YouTube, it's under Dave Petrella. It's P like Peter, Etrella. I'm also on Facebook under the same name, which is Dave Petrella, and Instagram is Dave Petrella 12. Send me a message, guys. I like people to get involved. I like to keep the conversation going, and this is about bringing the world together. We're coming into a new age of light, I believe, and understanding. And I want to get all of the benevolent spirits out there, whether you're weird looking or not weird looking. We're part of one team, and let's take us into the future.
Yes, well said, mate. I can't wait till we speak again soon, please, Dave. No doubt we will speak of something weird, mate. It just it's inevitable, isn't it? But we always make sense of it all. That's
yeah, absolutely.
It's a pleasure speaking with you, Dave. But
you too, and I'll tell
nice
you,
one, mate.
What we can do. We can do Bigfoot sometime too. I've got quite a bit to share about that one.
I love Bigfoot. I love it all, mate. I love it all. Right, I'm going to stop recording now, Dave, mate. Okay.